Hello everyone, welcome to my part 2 summary of Sukuna vs Jujutsu Tech. This part will cover the second plan to defeat Sukuna, and if you haven't watched the first part, I'll put the link in the description for you. Now let's remember our tier list from the last time, because we're going to be seeing more performances, and let's get into it. The fight starts where we left off from, with Yuta and Sukuna facing off after a small exchange. The fight begins with Yuta dashing towards Sukuna and using Rika to hide a quick stab to the chest. However, this is where we're going to see the gap between these two, with Sukuna easily seeing through this obvious plan and grabbing the blade. This was only a diversion though. Yuta lets go of the blade while Rika charges in, having her distract him so he can get a shot off on the chest. Then he grabs the blade again, aiming for the head. He ducks though as Rika charges in. While he's using everything he can, Sukuna grabs some scrap metal and tosses it at Rika, using another piece to block Yuta's sword swing. Instead of moving in to continue pressing Sukuna though, he does one of the most hype moments in Shinjuku Showdown and opens his domain. Authentic mutual love. Which, let me say, I love this character, but that name is not it. Like Jogo's domain is named Coffin of the Iron Mountain. How can you let Jogo have a tougher name than you? But I do agree it is completely in character name for him and it matches up with his character nicely. Now what does it do? Well, each of the swords in the domain represents a cursed technique Yuta has stolen. So every time he grabs a sword, he gets to use the technique engraved into it one time. To counter this, Sukuna opens Hollow Wicker Basket. Think of it like an ancient version of Simple Domain, a counter to those trapped in domains to protect against the sure hit effect. Yuta makes the first move, grabbing a sword and hitting Sukuna in the face with a thin icebreaker, which is a technique used by Takako. Think of it as a critical hit of concussive force. The camera then pans to Yuji, and Sukuna reveals the plan in this part of the fight. Using Yuji's new soul tracking hits and Yuji's domain, they'll free Megumi from Sukuna's grasp and end it all in this domain. Starting off the next round, Yuji charges into close quarters, his specialty, and lands 2 jabs on Sukuna's left as Yuta grabs another sword which contains the technique of Dohouv in it, which places an invaluable barrier on a Shikigami's trajectory. So in layman's term, it puts a sure hit effect on a Shikigami's attack, which is why even though Sukuna dodged Rika's attack, it still hit. Yuta then proceeds to grab another sword and using sky manipulation technique, changing the world around him like a sheet of paper. Rika then picks up Yuji, tossing him like a football straight at Sukuna, while Yuta shifts the sky, allowing himself to zoom to the ground, and they both hit opposing sides of Sukuna. With Yuji putting his arm at a lock once again here, we're going to see Sukuna's experience in combat by quickly flipping over his hand and activating his curse technique to cut Yuji open. Yuta was fast to react as well, grabbing a sword which contained cursed speech, a technique that makes your opponents do whatever you tell them to. He shouts to not move as he grabs another sword, hitting Sukuna with a second thin icebreaker, as Rika slams him from the left. He crashes into the ground with Yuji and Yuta running in while his defense is down, but Sukuna had already recovered and sent some slashes at them to halt their approach. Rika moved in too to keep up the pressure, but got her face palmed and kicked in the gut, as Sukuna uses Dismantle on her face while he still has her palmed. And as Yuji and Yuta heal from their wounds, round 3 begins. All 3 charge in, Yuji goes in for the right with Rika going for the left, and Yuta charging straight into the middle to stab the chest. However, the sword he had picked for this attack had a cursed technique Clairvoyance, which if the ink of the user's weapon is marked on the opponent, they can briefly see in the future. With Yuta dodging Sukuna's counter and landing a hard right jab on his face, and Yuji and Rika using this opening to continue the combo. Yuji hits a double palm strike straight to the chest, and Rika hits a hammer blow straight to Sukuna's back. As Sukuna pushes Yuji back, Yuta finds the perfect opening, grabbing 2 swords, the first having sky manipulation, which he uses to pull himself forward, and the second containing Shrine, which he lands directly on Sukuna's face. Now, this moment right here was a setup for another backup plan against Sukuna, which we will come back to in a later part of the series. So just keep in mind how weird it is that Yuta actually explained what their plan was instead of keeping it secret to have some sort of advantage of Sukuna guessing how his technique works. Not missing a beat though, Yuji comes in, punching Sukuna straight in the face as Yuji palms him in the gut. Yuji then knees him in the face, but Sukuna grabs his back and goes for the gut, which seems to be his favorite thing to do to Yuji for some reason. But this time Yuji powers through the pain and spits in Sukuna's face, and Yuta comes in with a clean uppercut straight to Sukuna's jaw. Also seizing the moment, Rika grabs Sukuna's leg, throwing him to Yuji, who lands a Majin kick. Now being backed in the corner, Sukuna starts to set up for a world-cutting slash. But this is the exact moment they had been planning for the entire fight. The moment he released Hollow Wicker Basket. All 3 of them charged in, First was Yuji and Rika suspending his arms as Yuta ripped out his weird mouth, gut, tongue thing. To push him back, Sukuna lands a slash, but Yuta runs back in, cutting his mouth open as he's bombarded by slashes over and over again. Just when he seems to have held Yuta back, Yuji's blood, which he spat on his face before, explodes. Blood exploding. Noticing. With him being blind once more, Yuta cuts off his lower left arm. As Yuta grabs another sword, Yuji runs back as Yuta sets up a maximum output Jacob's ladder on Sukuna, which is even more damaging due to him being a partial cursed spirit. And then to end this, Yuji runs back in and hits Sukuna with one more soul punch, telling Megumi directly to wake up. However, there was one thing they did not account for. For the person they wanted to save, didn't want to be saved. With Megumi not having the will to gain control back, the controller falls back to Sukuna. As we hear those terrifying chants once more, as Yuta is cut clean in half. When all seems to be lost though, someone appears. Someone Sukuna wasn't able to track. Stabbing Sukuna straight through the back, Maki Zenin has joined the fight. And this is where we'll end it for today. Hi everyone, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Next part will cover Maki's fight to Yuji's awakening, which is my favorite chapter in the entire series. So I'm pretty hyped to keep up the series. Please like, subscribe, comment your favorite moment of the fight, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.